all started with the heartbeat. That rhythmical sound is what gave us life. It became our pulse, our guiding downbeat. And the first rhythmical sound we heard was our mother's heartbeat. It told us that we were safe and that we were loved and in good company. And between our heartbeat and hers, in essence, we created our first community drum circle. We were in rhythm, we were in sync, we were in harmony, and life was grand. And then something happened to that rhythm of life along the way. Perhaps when we were at school and we were told that we were not musical because we could not play the piano or the violin. Now that might be true. We might not all be musically gifted. However, what they forgot to tell us is that we are all rhythmical. We are rhythmical beings, and we converse in the universal language of rhythm. Perhaps as well, what takes us out of sync is the fact that in our modern day world, we have surrounded ourselves with sounds of machines. We have replaced the sounds of nature with technology. Machines. And yet, interestingly enough, listen to those machines. They're rhythmical as well. And when they fall out of rhythm, they malfunction and stop. Our natural rhythms have been compromised. We spend so much time in artificial lighting, behind TV screens, behind computer screens, that something has happened to our circadian clock, our internal rhythms. We have lost the realization of needing to stop. Stop and listen. Listen to our heartbeat. How often do we ask ourselves, where are we in rhythm and where are we not? And when we get that awareness of where we're out of rhythm, it's time to actually get out there in nature. Spend long periods of time in nature, listening to nature, feeling nature, touching nature, and just being. In our modern world, our ancestors were totally governed by the rhythms of life, the rhythms of nature. In our modern world, we don't have that anymore. They followed the rhythmical, cyclical patterns of the moon and the tides and the planets and the seasons and day and night. Long before human beings learnt how to build cities and got industrialized and modernized, our ancestors were there in harmony with Mother Earth. They were on the same beat as the Earth's heartbeat. Now, take nature, for example. She's got rhythm down to a T. Migrating birds instinctively know that by flapping their wings at exactly the same time, they can increase the distance that they travel by more than 70%. And by the way, that's how they get to spend long, beautiful, hot summer holidays. Without that rhythmical entrainment, they'd be stuck back in the cold. So as human beings, how often do we rhythmically entrain? Are we in tune with ourselves? Are we in tune with each other? Are we in tune with Mother Earth? How often do we ask ourselves, what is our heart telling us? How often do we follow our heart? We have replaced positivity to a great extent with productivity, and intuition with logic. So it's time to see how it feels when we get rhythmically entrained. I'm going to invite you now to replace values of competition with values of collaboration. I'm going to ask you to unite in rhythm on the same beat, and let's see how that feels. So we're going to just take up the pulse, the downbeat. Remember, it's where we began, the pulse. And then what I ask you to do is, in between the beat, bring in your creativity. Yeah. Everybody. 4 and 3 and 2 and 1 and... So how did that feel? Yeah, you see? I am so lucky I get to do this for the last 12 years. But let me tell you, 12 years ago, it wasn't like that. 12 years ago, I was in the corporate world, and I was out of rhythm. I'd lost my mojo. And then, fortunately, I got the awareness that I was out of rhythm. And I told my boss exactly what I thought of him. And thankfully, I got fired. So, yes. Mother Nature had kicked me out of her nest. She knew that I needed rhythm in my life. And in the last 12 years, I've got to spread rhythm, unity through rhythm, with thousands and thousands of children and teenagers and people. And what I love about it is just what happened right then. It puts a beautiful smile on people's face. People love to belong. People basically belong to tribes. They love to belong. They love to collaborate. Our modern day world is what's brought in all that competition. But people love to collaborate. I'd like to share one of the most profound things that has happened in my experience of being a drum circle facilitator for the last 12 years. A couple of years ago, I received a phone call, and it was the director of the School for the Deaf in Sharjah, and he said to me, "Have you ever drummed with deaf teenagers?" And I said to him, "No, I'm sorry, I haven't." He said, "Oh no, that's such a shame." I said to him, "Why?" He said, "Because that means that they won't get to drum." I said, "Wait, I can do it." He said, "But how do you know if you've never done it?" I said, "Because I know that rhythm is a universal language that transcends all boundaries, even hearing." And so I went along to the deaf school. And in my room with them, there were 50 teenagers. And I must admit, I got a little bit scared. I was out of my comfort zone. I didn't know what was going to happen. I hadn't been to that place before. And then I remembered the universal language of rhythm. And I trusted myself and them. And we started drumming, like we did just now. And they were absolutely perfect. Absolutely divine. And at the end of the session, through the interpreter, I asked them, how did they feel? How did they get to be so perfect? And with tears in their eyes, there was a young teenage lady and a young teenage man, and with tears in their eyes, they said to me, "Thank you, because that's the first time in our life that we've ever played music together." And I asked them, "How did you manage to do that? So beautifully, so in rhythm, so in sync. How did you manage to do that?" And they said to me, "Because we listened with our hearts." And so, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, what would it be like in a world if I decided to listen to my heart, really listen to my heart, and you decided to really listen to your heart, and we went out there and in rhythm with ourselves and each other and our communities and our cities and our worlds, and most importantly, with planet Earth, we got back in harmony. In the words of the Native American Cherokee chief, who said, "We do not inherit this earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children." So what kind of a world are we going to hand over? My take on this is that a rhythmical world, like our ancestors, being in harmony with each other and harmony with the planet. Mother Nature so desperately needs a peaceful, harmonious concerto of people being aware again of their inner rhythms and her outer rhythms. And so what I'd like to invite you to do right now is to end this session as we began it, with a heartbeat, this time with a universal heartbeat, which is what connects us and what unites us. Dub, 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 dub. Living in rhythm! Yeah! Thank you.